Hello, my fellow library professionals. My name is Lisa Caggiano, and today I would like to discuss the importance of having LGBT-themed literature in your collections. I'll be discussing why this is necessary, studies in which support this user group's needs, while providing statistical information that we will examine, and most importantly, learn about the resources and tools out there that librarian professionals can use when crafting their own collections. So what does LGBT stand for? Well, it stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. How necessary is it, though, to have LGBT-themed literature in library collections? Well, adolescents, both in and out of the LGBT community, need to be educated on this topic. Literature in library collections should address all diversities, including the LGBT communities. It was once a topic that was kept in the shadows, never to be spoken about, but over the years has started to shed some light. Today's generation is becoming more vocal about this user group. Therefore, library collections and librarian professionals should keep up with the times and advertise this type of literature in their collections, regardless of any controversies it may bring. After understanding the necessity of having LGBT literature in your library collections, I want you all to also further understand the purpose of this presentation, which is to appreciate the value of LGBT literature for our youth and how and why it can impact young adults in their everyday lives. I want to teach and explain to you all about how to evaluate these materials efficiently when creating your collections. In doing so, research methods were gathered by librarian professionals that brought forth this interesting topic. The goal of their research, as was mine, was to find studies and relevant articles expressing the dire need for multicultural literature in the LGBT communities. I gathered these articles from the UB Library and established some key points that stood out amongst my findings, such as the following. Supporting this community isn't as easy as it seems. Although this community was quite hush-hush over the last few years, there is now shedding of light on it. It still tends to be a controversial, uncomfortable topic to discuss and accept by many. There are actually teachers who prohibit demonstrating literature and educating teens on this topic. Continued evidence at how disputable it is and therefore needs to be addressed. We don't want this to be the elephant in the room anymore. The lack of books and collections in libraries today is still wide, regardless of how high the statistics are of having LGBT members in the community. Again, one would think libraries are moving up with the times, but unfortunately, there is still a dire requirement to meet this user group's needs. In my next column, I will discuss the examination of evidence and results of the information gathered from these studies. As you can see, the pie chart below shows the types of diversity content in banned and challenged books between 2000 and 2009. LGBT main and secondary characters hold a poor 3 to 5%, exhibiting how scarce the content of these characters are in books that the youth read from the collections provided to them. It is imperative to also make known at how unsafe schools are when learning and welcoming LGBT students. The percentages of this study is shown in the picture provided next to the pie chart, analyzing how many students have heard homophobic remarks, have missed at least one day of school because of being bullied due to the orientation, and have also been verbally harassed because they were part of the LGBT community. So what do all these percentages tell us? Well, it tells us that we need to help the youth, and what better way to do that than to be their outlet through reading? These users need a positive escape, and the library is the answer. We need to provide materials to fit this group's needs in both public and school libraries. I wanted to provide some primary resources from professors and school and public librarians whose comments and statements left an impression on me, ones in which I hope will do the same for you. Providing collections that students who identify as LGBT need to see themselves in literature they read, to know they are not alone, as well as straight students need to see LGBT youth reflected in literature to confront prejudices they may have of their peers, and meaningful literacy can do that, a statement addressed by 3 young adult professors. One text cannot be overlooked. One text cannot carry the burden of representing a diverse population, and our bookshelves must reflect a range of LGBT identities. A statement made by a library professional. And lastly, despite increasing social acceptance of gay rights, the LGBT community remains by far the minority most targeted in hate crimes, and 63.5% of LGBT students said that they felt unsafe in school because of their sexual orientation. Another powerful statement that I hope opens all of your ears and eyes to that large percentage in which we need to change. In conclusion to this presentation, the representation of LGBT characters in books, and then those books into library collections, allow young adults in this community to feel a sense of belonging and relation to their sexual orientation. The examination of evidence and results here expresses the struggle that these users have had to go through in their everyday lives, the lack of materials for them, and how the primary resources from both public and school librarians making it quite clear how imperative and beneficial it is to have both books about these topics on their shelves. So the question comes down to this: what can we as professionals do to help? Well, librarians shouldn't feel apprehensive about what they choose to order for their collections. There are an abundance of resources and toolkits to search through that can help in the choosing process. I've provided a few websites on my literature cited worksheet that I will pass around for all of you to see at the end of this presentation. Librarians can also feature LGBT titles on reading lists, including them in book displays, as well as library-sponsored book clubs to help bring awareness. School librarians can create LGBT programming as an after-school activity, as well as lesson plans that include mandatory LGBT reading in between classes and when students come to the library. There are so many tools and resources that can help us as professionals to help them. To properly represent the LGBT community, libraries need to exhibit these materials for these users in all shapes and form. The low percentage of these materials is unacceptable, and with the unsafe welcoming of this diverse group in schools and neighborhoods, they need an escape, and reading and literature in libraries is the answer. I would like to leave this presentation with another powerful statement by a librarian who has said that school and public libraries show that the library is the most important information source. Library resources can provide self-affirmation, offer characters with which to identify, and decrease the feeling of alienation. Thank you for all of your time this afternoon, and I hope you've all understood the importance of this user group, what they face every day, and how important it is to make sure our shelves grow and blossom to meet the need of every user that steps into our libraries.